Hello, Steeler Nation, and welcome to your Steeler Nation podcast, part of the DK Pittsburgh Sports Podcast Network and sponsored by Total Sports Enterprises. I'm your host, G. Stryker, and I have room for a new co-host here, Ben Roethlisberger, since you seem to be getting on with your life's work. So how cool was that today, ladies and gentlemen? Ben Roethlisberger has left the building /stadium/league. He is now officially retired. Well, not officially yet. He hasn't technically filed the paperwork, but surrounded by his wife and his children, he has announced that he is not returning to football. And that, to me, is as good as any paperwork submitted to the league office because he is done. He's a family man now. I don't know how he's going to be involved with the team at all. I don't know if he's going to come back and visit. We'll have to see. I'm sure there's going to be many accolades and many different celebrations of his career, and the teams that he played on moving forward and coming back and celebrating at halftime like they do for different big Steeler teams like 2005 Super Bowl team, 2008 Super Bowl team, bringing those teams back. Be nice for him to be a part of it. And it would also be nice if Ben retires and stays in Pittsburgh. Obviously, his 3 children have roots there. Ben, who's his eldest, I know is in 3rd grade, matching my daughter, Viola. Those two should meet. Other than that, it's tough to want to have to move your kids out somewhere else and change their life. It may happen, but for right now, it seems like they have a nice life here. It seems like Ashley was local when he met her as I don't remember if she's a nurse or a physical trainer, but I know she's in the medical field. She's from the Pittsburgh area, so looks like they probably are going to stick around a bit. Plus, his family's in Findlay, not too far in Ohio. He's in a good spot. He's going to hang around a little bit longer. So it was really great just to see a delivery of a retirement speech this way. We're so used to seeing a player in front of a microphone with all of the media around them, flashbulbs going off, them getting emotional, starting to tear up, starting to cry, getting choked up. It's what media loves. So I love that Ben did this of his own accord through his own social media, which he's been doing for quite some time now, especially his big social media blasts that were coming out when he got his elbow surgery and he's starting to rehab and he's starting to work his way back to the field. That stuff to me was really interesting and really well done. And the media, of course, took it at the wrong angle every time he did anything. What a beautiful video he put together on how excited he was to get back, throwing downfield to players like Connor, throwing downfields to players like Juju, and those guys. And what did they take from that? He went into a barber shop and they weren't wearing masks. That was it. That has been relationship with the media in a freaking nutshell in Pittsburgh. They rake him over the coals for the dumbest things when he stopped being a dumbass since 2010. 12 years he's been a model citizen, no issues, family man, great community person, but the media never forgets. So good for you, Ben, doing it on your own so the media can't conflate this into something stupid like they love to do. It's it. You don't have to answer any questions. It's your career. You tell them when you're done. And you don't have to answer dumb questions like, well, when did you know your career was done? Did you feel your arm declining this year? Yeah, that's the crap we're going to get out of people like frickin' Cogboli and frickin' One Trick Filipponi. I don't need to hear them just say stupid crap time and time again and have these idiots just kind of take the you weren't nice to me angle from the media. I don't care. You don't have to be nice to me at all, Ben. I don't care. Go out there and win games. Be a model citizen. Hey, that stuff's good enough for me. You didn't ruffle my feathers early on in your career, but some people have thinner skin than I do. And it's one of those people being much larger than me, with the MM initials that I won't say his name. But that's the way it is in Pittsburgh media. You're either the heel or you're actually doing some actual reporting. Fortunately, the people at DK Pittsburgh Sports do some actual reporting. Love those guys over there, and over at Steeler Nation, of course, doing some great reporting as well. One thing, I expected, the team to come out and make a statement, which they did. I expected Rooney to make a statement. I expect Tomlin to make a statement, and Colbert. All of them have made statements, thanking Ben for his time, speaking on behalf of how great he was as a football player, as a competitor, as a winner, as a teammate, with his teammates coming out and supporting him as well. Like all this stuff, though, I did expect to see. This is usually what you see when a normal, great player retires. Everybody kind of throws in their kudos. Kind of cool, too, with former quarterback Terry Bradshaw throwing his hat in the ring, saying, "Oh, congratulations to you, Ben, being a great player, doing what no one has ever done, being an all-time great." I mean, that's a great kudos for people like that. And that's the stuff, like I said, we expect to hear that. Accolades coming out of the woodwork from former players within the organization. But here's one that I have never heard in my entire life. I have never heard a team's rival give their support and thanks for a great career. And today, the Baltimore Ravens put out a statement appreciating Ben Roethlisberger as a competitor, and of course creating, in my opinion, the single greatest rivalry in professional football, in all of professional sports, really, for a decade there, between the Ravens and the Steelers. I mean, you had some good matchups too in the playoffs with the Manning and Brady with Indianapolis and against the Patriots. But that Steelers-Ravens rivalry, which was twice a year, sometimes 3 times a year, was epic. An absolutely epic rivalry. I have to really give the Baltimore Ravens organization credit for going out on a limb, pun intended, birdies, to go and thank Ben Roethlisberger for kicking their ass so many times because he freaking owned them. Really the only other quarterback that could really consistently beat the Ravens. Case in point, the last 4 games played. So this rivalry will be really interesting moving forward, with them having an entrenched starter and former MVP Lamar Jackson. And the Steelers' next quarterback is, who knows? Who knows? But it's definitely not going to be Ben Roethlisberger. I thank you, Ben Roethlisberger. The reporters and staff at Steeler Nation, thank you. Of course, the reporters and staff at DK Pittsburgh Sports, thank you as well. And thank you also, too, for appreciating Steeler Nation. Both Ben thanking Steeler Nation, the organization thanking Steeler Nation. Not Steelers Nation, mind you, but Steeler Nation. You are welcome. And we will always be here for that. So cheers, Ben. Can't wait to hear about the great things you're going to be doing with your friends and family and with your life's work moving forward. It will be just interesting for us to hear about what you're up to. Can't wait to see you back in the Berg. And of course, can't wait to hear your speech in 5 short years when you get your gold jacket. Right there in Canton, right there in between Findlay and Pittsburgh. Short drive for you. Go pick up that gold jacket and give a speech. Congratulations, Ben. Thank you. Steeler Nation loves you, and can't wait to see what you're going to do moving forward. Awesome. So now, I had to think also, we might have a new rivalry now to replace that Steelers-Ravens rivalry, and that is probably one of the best football games I've seen in my life. This past weekend, the football games were insane. All 4 games had a field goal to end regulation. 4 seconds or 3 seconds on the clock. Clock expired after all 4 kicks. First 3 were upsets, road teams beating the away team. The road team for the Kansas City Bills game kicked in a field goal with 13 seconds left. That put in the book. They're done. Not so fast. Kansas City in 2 short plays get into field goal range, kick with no time on the clock, forcing overtime. And unfortunately, what was a climactic ending to regulation ends in the anticlimactic worst overtime rules in all of professional sports, all of sports in general. Guys, we had a problem back when Manning and Favre were losing playoff games because they didn't get a chance to have the football in overtime. Same freaking thing. Doesn't matter if it's field goals or touchdowns, in my opinion. If one team scores, the other team should get a chance to get that damn ball back. Move it to the 25-yard line. No extra points. Just always going for 2 after every touchdown. That'll make overtime as quick and as exciting as we can see. And that's something I'd really look forward to because this is done. Like all of the NFL, that's one thing that I heard so many fans. Twitter was blowing up. Worst way to end that game is to end it without Josh Allen getting a chance to answer that touchdown, which he would have. Honestly, that game was that good. What an amazing, amazing game. And quite frankly, one of the best games just in general, in specifically that I've ever seen in the NFL. And that's saying a lot. I've seen a lot of games. But this matchup, this rivalry, and the fireworks that Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes put up in this game really made it interesting and fun to watch and exciting. And look out, Steeler fans, because we need a quarterback that can score. Not only like Josh Allen and freaking Mahomes, but within our own division, we need somebody to keep up with Joe Burrow now. We need somebody to keep up with freaking Lamar Jackson and, well, Baker I'm not afraid of, but hopefully he gets locked down for a decade. But other than that, Steelers need to find their quarterback, and they need to do it quick. Who knows who it's going to be? But right now, we all know it's not going to be Ben. But I wanted to mention a couple top Ben Roethlisberger moments just for me personally. I mean, those of you too, I'd love to hear you. Tweet it to me at SN Stryker over at Twitter, on Instagram as well. But for my moments, there was a couple that I thought of that were just neat moments that, you know, may or may not have been impactful moments in the game. I mean, obviously we remember the great touchdown throw in the drive at the end of the 2008 Super Bowl season. That's the biggest one that comes to mind. Obviously, the big plays too, as a second-year player in 2005, even in the Super Bowl, being able to run for a touchdown at the end of the half by just barely getting it in there, throwing that ball down to the 1-yard line to get for Ward. I mean, that was just a good game as well. Good managed game, even though he didn't have the best quarterback rating in that game. But he threw the ball all over the place in the 3 previous games. Cincinnati on the road, Denver on the road. I forget the third matchup, but I mean, he was throwing the ball, came out firing against Denver, had 3 touchdowns in the first quarter. I remember when Cowher was retiring, it was his last game. They weren't making the playoffs. They were playing the Bengals. They got to overtime, and he throws a slant in overtime to Holmes, who rips off like 90 yards to win that game in overtime and to put the cherry on top of Coach Cowher's career with a win in overtime was just a really impactful throw, in my opinion. That Ravens game in 2008, when he was being rushed, spins around, guys falling off of him, somehow finds Holmes again, Santonio Holmes, downfield on a play where he gets annihilated after he throws it, and then Santonio Holmes weaves through the entire Baltimore defense for 65 yards. And it was essentially the game that took it to the end. Obviously, you know, Troy cinched it with that interception at the end of the game, but that play was the go-ahead and made sure that they were going to win that game. But what an amazing, amazing play. The Christmas Day game, too, just getting it to the 1-yard line to AB, where AB did the rest. But that was such a gift on Christmas Day to watch them drive down the field and Ben drive that team down the field and AB get in position to do the immaculate extension on Christmas Day. Just great memories. And I know you guys have plenty as well. There's just too many to mention. Mention one of his 51 comebacks. I mean, come on. Insane career. Insane. Third all time. There's one other little piece of news on Ben Roethlisberger that came out yesterday that I was kind of confused about yet intrigued. And that was Mike Singletary came out and talked about how he vetoed a trade option to bring Ben Roethlisberger to the 49ers. Now, that may or may not have been the case, or may have been the case, at least within the San Francisco organization, if they were like, well, if we want to go out and get Ben Roethlisberger, is that the type of guy you want to get there, Mike? And then Mike's like, no, I don't want that kind of guy. I'm building the character roster. Of course, his character was in question back there, 2010. He had a suspension, things like that going on. So that makes sense in that respect. But to me, it only makes sense when you just take it from the 49ers perspective of, do we want to try to go out and get a quarterback? Because from the other side of it, it's already been reported that Rooney said, we're not trading Ben, we're standing behind Ben. And they did. I don't know if there was ever an offer from Pittsburgh's side on the table. And I will not believe that story for being a valid trade option, not a veto of the trade option, because it also comes down to, how does the head coach make a veto when the general manager is essentially the person to bring the personnel to give your team the best chance of winning? I don't know. But in that respect, I find it tougher to believe that Mike Singletary had the power to veto the trade in its entirety if it was going to go through on Pittsburgh's end, which I just don't think it was. And I think other teams were just trying to reach out to the Steelers at the time just because they knew they had a young two-time Super Bowl winning quarterback that had some issues that may be available when there's issues. Look at Watkins over in Houston didn't play a year this year because of all of his allegations. When all of Steeler Nation was talking about trying to pick him up last year. I mean, that's the way it is, guys. When allegations come down to a talented quarterback, the rest of the league starts talking about trying to move him. And I think that's probably what happened in this case as well. I just don't believe for a second that the Steelers were actively had Ben on the trading block. That would have just came out. It would have been too apparent to see, and nobody would have been able to stop that story from coming out. So I erroneously reported the last podcast that I thought Tyson Alualu was going to just retire. He's older, had a season-ending injury. I'm like, he's done. He doesn't want to have to go through this crap again. But I was wrong. He tweeted out the next day because he probably heard the podcast and is like, Stryker, no way. I'm coming back. And that is great. I would love to have Tyson Alualu back in the middle again for this defense because, damn it, we need to stop the damn run. And we need nose tackles. We need to draft one on day 3 as well. But Alualu coming back is a big boon to the defensive line. And then that also begs the question, is Tuitt coming back? Will he ever come back? And I need to go out here and let all of you minor league capologists out there stating, oh, we're going to get $9 million back if we get rid of Tuitt. Wrong. We do not get $9 million back for cutting Tuitt. $9 million is his salary, but he was restructured and they threw that restructure into 3 additional void years. So he's on the hook for about $5 million this year and then $1.5 million for the next 3 years, which puts his dead cap number at $9.6 million, which is just over his base salary, but his cap hit is nearly $14 million. So you save yourself a little over $4 million if you cut him. Not 9, $4 million. That's the number we're going to get if we cut him. Now, if you want to cut somebody and make some money, Joe Schobert is the only guy on the roster where you're going to get a boon for cutting him because I think he counts about $9 million against the cap for here, right? Yep, $9 million against the cap, 8.7 in base. But if you don't give him his roster bonus, you don't give him his workout bonus, you don't give him his restructure bonus, which are all set to come in, which looks like it's about 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, nearly $1 million with all of those bonuses. The restructure bonus obviously is hit, but that's 4.72. But you're only talking about a dead cap. What is it? Around $1 million. That's about it. So you can save about $8 million on his salary if you cut Joe Schilling. Interesting stuff. But I digress. The Steelers have a lot to think about, especially with all the cap space that they have moving forward. But one person that's going to be eating up a lot of their cap for a long time is the most expensive man on the roster, TJ Watt. Congratulations for another Defensive Player of the Year award, but not the one that we're all thinking about yet. He's getting all these HIPPA, all these different initials, all these different AP and all these different coaching awards, but not the official Defensive Player of the Year. You got AFC Defensive Player of the Year. Don't get me wrong. TJ Watt, the 2-time should have been Defensive Player of the Year, will be Defensive Player of the Year this year. I will stake my reputation on it. As little weight as that carries, I will stake my reputation on TJ Watt becoming Defensive Player of the Year in his 3rd year of should have been Defensive Player of the Year, because there's no way you can deny the sack leader and this disruptive player and the highest paid defensive player in the NFL from being the best player in the NFL. TJ Watt, can't wait to see it. Can't wait to celebrate that here in a few short weeks. So now it is time for questions from Steeler Nation. Go on over to SteelerNation.com. Sign up in the forum. It is free. The football forum where I ask questions each week. And the first question comes in from /Steel. When in Louisiana, what is the must eat? And I say, when I was in Louisiana, I always have to look out for Creole food and Cajun food. So I made sure to go out. I had some gumbo. I had some crawfish etouffee. You got to get down and dirty. I didn't have any blackened or Cajun stuff, though. I should have grabbed something out, but I'm back in Texas now. But love that style of food, that French spiciness and everything in between. It's just, and seafood, love it. Can't get enough of that New Orleans, Louisiana cooking. Next question from /Steel. Who do you like for defensive coordinator? I'll tell you who I like and who I love for defensive coordinator. I even have a t-shirt of him. Colbert. Kevin Colbert. I love him to stay. I love that they're all coming out. Oh, we spoke a little too soon. Maybe he's not retiring. But if he did retire, if Colbert did retire, I would like Brandon Hunt to get promoted from within. I would like that. Or Omar Khan. I'm fine with our other guys, but I'm even more fine if Brandon Hunt or Omar Khan get a GM job elsewhere in the league, because that means 2 third-round draft picks get awarded to the Steelers for a minority hire within your system. Would love that. Absolutely would love that. And kudos, too, to Leftwich getting hired. Tampa Bay is going to get two picks for that for Jacksonville's new head coach. Couldn't happen to a better guy, and one of my favorite backup quarterbacks in Pittsburgh Steeler history there in Byron Leftwich. Another question from /Steel. Do you think Loudermilk will win a start next season? Yes, he's already started this past season. I think he will start a lot, especially if Tuitt's not playing. I don't know if Tuitt's going to be back. It's being very odd. He sold his house. Writing's on the wall, guys. I mean, this was I've never heard such of a hush-hush reason for somebody not playing football for an entire year. Not just injuries, family-related. I don't know if the guy's ever going to play again, but I'm not banking on it. And if I'm not banking on it, get on with your life work. Next question. Do I interview Loudermilk if he does get a start? I would interview him just when he's drafted. I love interviewing drafted players. It's one of my favorite things to do. So yes, I'd love for Loudermilk to come in on the show anytime. He's open invitation. Last question from Slash Steel. You can bring in one unrestricted free agent. Who would it be? My number one is a quarterback. I talked about it last show. Jameis Winston. He is my number one. I think he fits our system perfectly. I think he's great at decision making. Has an incredible touchdown to interception ratio now. And he's a winner now. New Orleans was hot garbage without him this year. Dumpster fire without Winston this year. With him, they look like they were a Super Bowl contender. Now, done. Nothing. And they're banking on Taysom Hill. Take him. I want Winston. But I'll give you this one too. Here's my second one. For defense, my number one take for bringing in a defensive player is you can never have enough playmakers on your defense. I go out and I get the best playmaking safety, strong safety for my defense, and that is Tyrann Mathieu. I bring in the Honey Badger, man. I've wanted him ever since he was draft eligible because he plays this game with heart, with intensity. He hits hard. He punishes anybody in front of him, and he can make plays on the football. Tyrann Mathieu would go far in this system, playing next to Minkah Fitzpatrick. Give me a break. This defense would be insane with those two guys in the back end of that defense. Way better than Edmonds, who, in my opinion, they've had to carry him this entire time. Absolutely this entire time. Minkah has had to carry Edmonds because Edmonds just is not an intense, aggressive guy. Tyrann Mathieu is, and that's the guy I want. Mad Insomniac, next question. So Leftwich got a head coaching job. Yep, just talked about it. That's why I started talking about it a bit. What other quarterbacks that backed up Ben are going to be big-time coaches one day? I love that question. Well, Dobbs is essentially a quarterback coach now. He was kind of doing that as the practice squad fourth, third quarterback for the Steelers these past couple years and the injured reserve quarterback. Don't know if he's still going to try to parlay that to continue to do quarterback coaching, maybe parlay that into being an offensive coordinator, eventually a head coach. He's smart enough to do it. Guy's a rocket scientist. Guy interns at NASA. If he wants to be a head coach, guy can be a head coach. He'd be the smartest head coach we've ever had in the league. But we'll have to see. You mentioned Batch also being a possibility. I could see that. He's smart and he knows the game. But I think he loves the announcing aspect too much. It's not as intensive. It's not as grueling and takes all the time that coaching does. So I think Batch is happy where he is. But I'll throw in this wild card for you. How about Bruce Gradkowski? Backed up Ben for 3 years. What was that? 2010 to 2013-ish. Guy's smart as hell. Statistician over there at PFF. Watches every quarterback throw every week and rates it. Guy knows the game inside and out. I would have that guy in here to be an offensive coordinator and maybe one day a head coach. He's definitely smart enough to do that. So if he wants to put down the pencil and the pocket protector, I would love to see him as a coach, Brad. And Brad's a friend of the show. He's been on the show before too, man. Love to see that, brother. Talk to you soon. And then another question from Matt Insomniac. So it's been reported that Tuitt sold his house in Pittsburgh. If so, and he retires, does the defensive line jump above offensive line in the pecking order of needs? I assume for draft or free agency, yes. Yes, if you have to replace Tuitt, who is an all-pro level player, Pro Bowl definitely level player consistently when he's healthy, you have to find somebody to fill that role. Is Loudermilk projecting well enough to keep growing? Is Wormley projecting well enough to keep growing within that role as well? I think we have some options on the team as it is. But yeah, you have to either think about going out and selecting somebody in free agency, or you have to take a high draft pick on a defensive lineman. And to me, that's the best way. You start rebuilding this roster, offensive line, defensive line, and then get your quarterback. Because we can be bad for a couple years, guys. Tomlin can have a losing record, guys. I mean, Tomlin, you got to do yourself a favor and not coach so well when your team has adversity. But a couple down years, we might be able to get a good rebuild here. And have a franchise quarterback and start winning Super Bowls again. That'd be absolutely awesome. So Ike Kelly has the next questions. Louisiana, you moved? No, I'm on tour. I'm handing out free Mountain Dew stuff. I got Mountain Dew. Am I wearing my shirt? I don't know if I'm wearing. Nope, I changed my shirt. But I did my last event in Louisiana, and I've got to get my RV repaired in Texas, and I'm flying home from Austin on Saturday. So I'll be back in Maryland starting on Saturday. Going back from headquarters, being able to do my podcast from my cat's room again. So not too long from that. I've got a question. Okay, Ike, what is it? I figure no chance on a quarterback to draft this year. But Brennan Armstrong from UVA, have you been following him? Looks like another good quarterback for 2023, which appears to be loaded next year. He's a southpaw. Would like your opinion on him. I'm not as versed on college quarterbacks because I don't watch a whole lot of college football. I watch a ton of pro football, a ton of it. Every once in a while, I'll catch a college game here and there. I just can't get into the college game. I don't really like the way the playoff system works in the BCS college. It's BCS. I don't even know which one. The one where you have top 4 playing. It's getting better. It's better than just 2 teams playing. But until you have an actual playoff, 12 teams minimum, it's not a playoff. It's just we're picking these 4 teams because we decided on it and they get to play each other. And it's dumb. And until they do an actual playoff like all of the other football divisions have no problem doing, then I'll start getting excited about college football. But I will tell you what I love about left-handed quarterbacks. Left-handed quarterbacks, you get to do something opposite of the rest of the league, where the rest of the league has the left tackle as the most important position on the offensive line protecting the quarterback's blind side. With a left-handed quarterback, the right tackle becomes the number 1 position on your offensive line to be able to protect your franchise quarterback. And that I do like from a strategy perspective, because right tackles are cheaper than left tackles. So you can have the best right tackle in the league far less expensively than you can have the best left tackle in the league. And then you'll be properly protecting your quarterback, filling in your line accordingly, and then you can have a lesser left tackle because we don't need the left tackle to block the blind side. The quarterback will see that rush coming up that side, much like they do with the way the right tackle is now for our right-handed quarterback. So I do love that aspect of it, and I do love that the draft is supposedly deeper at quarterback next year. This year, Corral maybe, Pickett maybe, but unless Pickett drops to where we are, I think that would be the only quarterback we take in the first round, would be Pickett. I think Corral maybe in the second round, but I don't think he's going to last the second round. But that's the way I see them for the way they'd fit in Pittsburgh and where they'd be slotted. And I don't see Pickett lasting to 20. I don't see him getting out of the top 10. And I don't see the Steelers going into the top 10 for him. It's rebuild time. We need draft picks. We're done giving them up. We were giving away draft picks when we were bringing in Minkah Fitzpatrick, moving up to get Bush, because we were trying to lock down this team for Ben's last run. And we gave him the weapons. We did well. Unfortunately, injuries killed us. Injuries killed us from being able to put it all together. And a catch that's not a catch against the Patriots also hurt us in being on the road as opposed to playing at home. Other than that, I'll get off my soapbox. But that is all the time we have today on the podcast, guys. Thank you so much. Be sure to check out all of the great Pittsburgh sports content and Western Pennsylvania sports content over there at dkpittsburghsports.com. Be sure also to come over to SteelerNation.com to read our Steeler-focused articles and great Steeler perspectives for Steeler Nation writers over at SteelerNation.com. Make sure you tweet us at SteelerNation, Instagram us at SteelerNation.com, follow the podcast at _SN Podcast. Over on Instagram, we're Steeler Nation Podcast, and I am at SN Stryker on Instagram and Twitter. Stryker spelled with a Y. Thanks for joining us for the Steeler Nation podcast, sponsored by Total Sports Enterprises, part of the great DK Pittsburgh Sports Podcast Network. I'm your host, G. Stryker, rooting along with you as always. Go